Hey everybody, welcome back to G4G on YouTube. This video is going to be a little less about Starfield and a little bit more about the controversy that's been going on with Starfield. If you are a gamer, I'm sure you've encountered some reference to this in the past few days, so I wanted to go ahead and weigh in on it. Rather than do what a lot of other YouTubers are doing and giving the original clip more visibility by replaying it and everything like that, I've basically transcribed 3/4 of it and am going to respond to the rant itself and instead of playing it and then responding, which seems to be the popular thing. You can do the searching yourself. I'm not going to draw more attention to the YouTuber who did it by naming him or his past pretty good videos that he used to do. He's kind of taken a turn like the quartering, and he abandoned World of Warcraft a while back, so I really don't have that much use for him. But in reference to, say, the quartering, for example, there was a time in which I generally enjoyed quartering's content when it was a lot of the, hey, look at what some of these people are doing, like, look at this kind of crap Zoe Quinn is doing, and the lady whose name is Anita Sarkeesian, when she was out there sort of going into her thing. I actually watched Anita Sarkeesian's first season, and it was good to watch and think of things differently, but then she began to kind of get a little too full of herself, and what she was talking about, she often wielded it as a weapon. So, for example, there was that one little meet and greet that she did, one presentation where several people sitting in the front row weren't doing anything to her. They were just sitting there looking at her as she did her presentation, and she recognized them as people who have spoken ill about her on YouTube and immediately had them tossed out. And the thing is, people responded to it and did toss the people out despite the fact that they had done nothing wrong. And Quartering would call that stuff out, and I appreciated it, but then he just kind of went off the deep end there of some really ridiculous content. And now it seems like this other YouTuber for the rant in question here has kind of done the same. So yeah, let's get into a discussion about the Starfield controversy over here. Warning, this video is going to contain some language that is not really going to be my own. It is going to be me repeating the language that somebody else had said, and it's also going to have some opinions that may align or not align with how you feel about it. So let's get into it if you're going to stay past this point. As you can see, I preloaded Starfield just last night, and now it's already going through a 120 gigabyte update. Holy crap. Thank you, Bethesda. Yes, I know it's Bethesda, but Bethesda is sometimes more fun to say when they do this stuff. What are we going to have? Is it going to be something bigger and better than the debacle that was Fallout 76 and everything Fallout 76, with moldy plastic helmets and cheap vinyl jackets instead of leather as they looked, and bad rum, or there was like a bad alcohol from Fallout 70. The Fallout 76 stuff was crazy. Go look at Yang Yeah for those early days of Fallout 76 where all the merch was complete trash. But people are kind of giving it about a 7.5, 8 out of 10. A lot of defenders are saying it's great. The defenders are saying, oh, it's just the people that are pissed it's not coming on PlayStation. They're kind of blowing up the sites that are reviewing it poorly, saying that they're being PlayStation biased. However, I have seen some valid comparisons of the immersion in Starfield compared to the immersion in, say, Cyberpunk 2077. I've seen good immersion takes on Starfield, like, wow, you can walk into a person's house and you can turn on their stove and turn on and off their shutters and the things you would expect you could do if you were doing them in real life. But then I've seen a take where somebody jumps off of a roof and lands in water and is just simply didn't get hurt, but they're just walking on the water. Whereas in Cyberpunk, they would jump off the roof and land in the water and swim. So there is some back and forth with the quality of Starfield. There's some FPS issues. A lot of people early on had issues playing it on the Steam Deck, but then apparently now it is relatively good on the Steam Deck. But I think it might be locked at 30 FPS, and same thing for the consoles. Anyway, the controversy that isn't really a controversy, and that's going to be my point. Spoiler alert, it isn't really the controversy people think it is, but I'll get to that. So the controversy is apparently relatively early on in Starfield. There is a question of, like, what are your pronouns? I will get into the rant first, and then give my take on it, which is essentially a response to the rant over here. A YouTuber encountered this portion of the character setup, put his headset down, and said, and here it begins the quote and the language, so if you have sensitive ears or young children in the room, or are pregnant, or are not tall enough to ride this ride, maybe this is where you want to skip a bit, brother. Nothing I love more than to sit down in my comfy chair, turn on the PC, fire up a new RPG, and lose myself. Oh my god, think of this world, these planets I can visit, all the immersive things I can get involved with, fights, relationships, all the people I meet, all the places I can go. There's nothing more than, with all this laid out in front of me, to be dragged down in every fucking conceivable opportunity for you to current day us. Do you want to be immersed in our world? Well, guess what? Fucking pronouns. Fucking gender ambiguity. Fucking current day Californian shit, because it's all we fucking know, because we're fucking boring. We're so fucking boring. We can't see beyond our fucking reflection. That's the level of narcissism we have. Bethesda, Western Game Company, fuck your immersion and good time. Fuck you falling into a world and getting lost. No. Fucking current day. Fuck off. You're fucking boring. You're fucking dumb. And then there's a little bit more rant to this. This rant is so misplaced and so narrow-minded thinking, it's incredible. It's not narrow-minded thinking because of people who are tired of gender ambiguity and pronoun stuff everywhere. That isn't actually what the issue is. It's being made out to be that because of very limited thinking. You want to talk about triggered and things that trigger people. This is a triggered person immediately because they didn't stop, take a breath, and think about what they might be in for as to why they're being asked a pronoun. Now, I want to point out that when I searched for the video to go to the source just to compare some things, his part 1 video is 6.5 hours long. So clearly it wasn't enough to make him stop, unless for some reason that pronoun choice came after the 6.5 hour mark, which sounds crazy. And as you can see, I'm not in it yet, so I haven't hit that question. I can't confirm or deny. Why I think this is so out of place and so vein-poppingly angry stupid on his part, not mine. I'm not vein-poppingly angry at this. To have that reaction and pop a blood vessel in your head is incredibly misplaced, because it is about the plot, the storytelling, and the dialogue. I want you to think really clearly on a lot of the MMOs we often play today. Think about it. Think about World of Warcraft. What do you refer to in World of Warcraft? In text, yes, you are referred to your name. If an NPC is having a conversation about me, to me, regarding me, with me in some way, shape, or form, my name is there. Druidicus. That's the character I predominantly play. Druidicus is mentioned. you know, I may be talking to one of the main players of the expansion, and somebody will be sitting there saying, "Ah," in text, "Ah, Druidicus, I'm so glad you're here. I've been waiting to meet you. Only you can stop forest fires." The thing is, the text, the that's the text part. The speech part will not include my name because it has to try to pronounce it, and we all know crazy names go in there, unpronounceable names, or names that you have a certain way in your own head. For example, Titus and Titus in Final Fantasy X, Terra, Tira, kind of a deal. There are ways that you think a word should be pronounced in your head until somebody comes along and says it in modern games like the city and stuff like that. Hearing Terra, Tira, Titus, Titus, and everything like that, it was sometimes mind-blowing because it didn't always align with what I thought. So having World of Warcraft try to speak my name could result in some hilarity. They'd also have to build a text-to-speech engine in there. So often what happens in speech, you are referred to as your big title of that expansion. Savior, Defender, Guardian. I mean, think of Destiny 2. Hello, Guardian. Nobody says, hello, Napalm. Hello, Napalm Dawn. They like Guardian. So imagine if a company comes along and tries to fix some of that. Final Fantasy XIV, Square. I believe you're often referred to as the Warrior of Light. And that's how people speak about you. The Warrior of Light, Warrior. Now imagine an RPG comes along and can properly converse about you text-wise and speech-wise and get it right, because they're not going to speak your name unless you build a text-to-speech engine. And again, it could be hysterically bad. I mean, imagine if you make your name Beeschurger and somebody's like Bizet Churgier or something like that. I mean, you're going to be like, oh my god, that's not, I'm Beeschurger, not Biazy Churg, or something like that. So what Bethesda has gone and done, by asking you your pronouns, they can now fit you properly into the text and the speech of the game and get a reference to you actually correct without being ridiculously generic. Let's say a thing you could be in Starfield is astronaut or traveler. Okay, let's say traveler. That seems to be good. Imagine if your name in the game was Napalm Dawn, and every time you got into a conversation with NPCs that were speaking, they were like, Traveler, Traveler, the Traveler here. The Traveler has come upon us. The Traveler this, the Traveler that. It makes conversations ridiculously awkward, and it also stifles the ability for their content team to write the dialogue and everything. Because you're always referring to somebody as a traveler, you're not going to be able to work a pronoun into the sentence. It's traveler. It becomes a Mad Lib, really, at that point. But now if you specify a pronoun and somebody can be talking about you, they could be like, I would like to introduce you to the traveler. Or I would like to introduce you to the traveler is what they say in speech. The text might say Napalm Dawn, but then after that you are he. He has come to us from the stars. She has come to us from planets unknown. He is here to examine our planet. She is here to ask questions about our special minerals. It becomes actually more immersive because the NPCs are getting things correct and they're getting your references correct. Not because of a gender pronoun, but because they're getting the essence of your character correct in the pronoun. You could sit there and say, well, Napalm, What if, when you were making the character, you just selected male or female body type, or you chose your gender that way, and that's where the game picked it up from? They picked it up from the gender of your character creation. They didn't ask you for a pronoun. The game just goes with your pronouns based on the gender that you picked during character creation. Yes, that would be great, and that would be an easy way to do it. We don't typically see that too often, though. You just wind up with the generic reference to you: Guardian, Warrior of Light, Savior, Traveler, Dragon Slayer, Astronaut, whatever. To lose your mind over Bethesda being able to write proper dialogue that takes you into account in a more easy speaking way, instead of having to give you the generic reference all the time, I don't think is anything to get mad at. And I think to immediately say, oh, you're current daying us because everything is about pronouns, blah, 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 blah. I think that is very narrow-minded thinking. I think it's very triggered thinking, to be honest. And, this YouTuber has done a video like, oh my god, I'm canceled for having an opinion. I don't think the person should necessarily be canceled, because honestly, continued videos on the subject from this person are just going to drive clicks to them. They're going to get the people taking a look at what he's saying to defend himself and be against it because they're against his original stance, or he will appeal to people that follow his way of thinking, and then they're going to fall in with that and be like, yeah, these fucking pronouns, can't believe this game, yeah, current day shit, can't step away from what's the world outside and immerse myself in the game that doesn't ask me this stuff. Like, this, everything related to this quote-unquote new way of thinking, it has been around for a long time now, and you're doing yourself an extreme disservice to not recognize that it's here and it's here to stay. For example, go over and look at Overwatch. Look at the characters in Overwatch. You have Zarya, a muscular built woman, a not typical, often represented female appearance. She's big, she's bulky. A lot of her emotes and winning game poses are about weightlifting and being strong. Her voice lines are about being strong. You have Moira, who is very ambiguous, sort of a very David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust look to her. And it's here. We've been dealing with it for a while. How is anything shocking at this point in time? I mean, characters like Moira and Zarya have been around for a long time, and Zarya goes back to being an original cast member. What is so shocking in today's world that pronouns come out from left field and trigger you into a vein-popping, swear-laden rage over here about their inclusion in a game? Yes, it could be very much not just about the dialogue, but giving people the chance to be inclusive in a game. They can create a character, make it look exactly how they want it to look, but then set the gender in conversations by setting the pronouns and everything. You could create a character who looks slightly on the feminine side, but set a pronoun of he, because the gender is male. It is just a rather feminine looking male, because maybe you feel that represents you, and you know what? That's perfectly fine. You should be able to do that if you want to, and if you feel that is the character representation of you in the game, great, have that choice. What is exactly wrong with choice? And what is exactly wrong with being able to properly insert yourself into a game the way you want? That is what character customization is about. And that is why people get upset at like games that have some gender lock characters, like you go back to the original Diablos, where the sorceress is only female. Maybe you don't want to play a female sorceress. You want to play a male sorcerer or male wizard, or the paladin was male. Maybe you're female. Like, I don't want to play a male paladin. Why can't I have a female paladin? So, obviously, gender locked has come under fire, but even if it was intended to be that way, about just creating inclusivity so people can represent themselves in Starfield exactly how they want, you know what? Then great. Fine. What is wrong with more people being happy with the game instead of a limited set of people? A limited set who can easily make themselves in any game conceivable, and then the people who have a harder time, they get shunned. I don't find anything wrong with the representation, but I don't necessarily think that the inclusion of pronouns when creating your character or setting your character's appearance and everything is necessarily about that. It could just be a matter of plot and speaking and including your character in the conversation in a proper way that isn't a generic reference and doesn't require a text-to-speech engine in it. And if anybody doubts the power of inclusivity and its effect on people when they get into a game, I wish I could find this clip. Unfortunately, I can't. Whenever I search for it, I get tons and tons and tons of hits, especially on YouTube. But there was a Twitter video I saw many, many years ago, and this is the story I always like to tell about this. And then I'll be wrapping up the video. It was a Twitter post that was a clip of a Twitch streamer. She was playing Miles Morales on the PlayStation. Miles Morales is Puerto Rican. The streamer was Puerto Rican. Miles, in this clip of the game, was in a festival that was being held in this sort of wintry scene of the city Miles was in. And Miles was walking around this Puerto Rican festival in this cold weather, and she was listening to the music, and she was listening to the background chatter, and she was like, this is authentic Puerto Rican music. They're speaking in a Puerto Rican tongue in the background over here. He's walking by stands that have Puerto Rican food. And she broke down crying because she had never seen that level of representation in a game that she had played. And she'd never been able to truly immerse herself as herself in a game because Puerto Ricans are hardly represented to that effect in a game. And here she was sort of being amongst her people, air quotes. So it floored her, and she was crying, and she was very, very happy about it. And she was so happy to see that representation. It affected her mightily. How can you deny somebody that? How can you deny somebody that joy and happiness because you might who don't like inclusivity and representation in games? And games should be for all life. They should be any race, any sexual preference, race, any sexual preference, even ability versus disability. Games should be accessible to just about anybody. Obviously, mature themes should not be accessible to a 7-year-old. I mean, a hentai game on Steam should not appeal to a 6-year-old, but games should be accessible to everybody who wants to enjoy them. And to stamp that out or go on a rant because of it, to me, I kind of think is crazy. So let me know what you think down below. And if you're playing Starfield, what do you think about it? Is it a mid-game? Is it a good game? As you can see, I'm just getting into it right now, and I'm building my shaders, so It'll be a while before I have an opinion on whether Starfield is good or not. Thanks for watching the video and hanging out with me and listening on whether Starfield is good or not. Thanks for watching the video and hanging out with me and listening to me. Napalm Dawn signing off.